Is that it for the news? No, we got more news.
No, we've got news for days, my dude.
We have a fat black chocobo and some changes.
Yep, let's go to some changes.
We've talked about, and this is me totally doing some joke theft for Matt. We have talked about Mythic Plus. Now it's time for Classic Plus. Which affixes would you like? This survey is going to tell you.
Yep. So here we are. They have this was recently confirmed to go out to people. It was a survey about Classic. It wasn't about Classic Plus. It was about Classic and Fresh Start Realms for them.
Classic New Game Plus.
Yeah. So Fresh Start Classic Realms is in a restart of the servers, starting from the beginning. You've got fresh characters, etc., etc. Yeah. But not just raw. They're like, you know what? You've done it all. Let's see would you be interested if we actually switched it up a little bit?
New server, new rules. And what it really seems to me, I have to be honest. I mean, there's been a lot of rumbling, did they want to put WoW token in the Burning Crusade? Did the Classic team just fucking rebel on that one? Who the hell knows?
I imagine there's a bloodbath.
Actually, you know what? Because there was boosts, and we know that... Was it John Haidt who said the stuff about boosts like a year and a bit ago? Yeah. Whatever it was. A high-up person in WoW was like, oh, boosts don't really fit the Classic experience, we won't be doing them. Yep. And then, of course, the bean counters force boosts in. And do you know what's really funny? This is a big
Yeah.
Blizzard's revenues are like... I think they're actually above King. But Activision is crushing Blizzard in terms of profits.
Yeah,
Activision's crushing Blizzard. And Blizzard has got a real problem with their release slate. D4, Overwatch 2, taking too damn long. So maybe, in an ideal world where Blizzard did not feel a big pinch because they were not the rock stars bringing in the money, because that's now Activision with Warzone and COD Mobile and COD Blops Cow. It's an Activision of the Rockstar, so maybe Blizzard feels more of a pinch to actually make some more money. So it's like, that's why there is more monetization in WoW Classic TBC.
Yeah.
Would I have been surprised if they would have tried to have, got token in there? No, not at all. And when I then see this survey, and I'm sort of putting the cart before the horse because it's what came to my mind, but if you look at the very bottom, it's the final image of the ones that we have. Zoom down there. That one. Second from the bottom, earn gold at faster rates. So I feel like if they're willing to basically... I mean, it depends. Is that just them like inflating the currency? How are they going to do that? Whatever. But if they're willing to do that, I mean, surely they're going to be willing to have WoW Token Classic.
Almost definitely if they think it'll work. I mean, because here's actually when you were talking, I brought up the quote from it's his Reddit name is Altruist WoW, but it is John Haidt. It is executive producer for World of Warcraft and World of Warcraft Classic. Over a year ago, character boosts are I'll give the context. I hope the character services stay limited to server transfers because things like character boosts would break my heart. To that, John Haidt replied, "Character boosts are not in keeping with Classic. We don't want to break any hearts." Which they then broke hearts in TBC.
Yeah, that statement didn't last long, did it?
Yeah.
Now, in fairness to John Haidt, I'm not going to come out here and say the man's a liar. He 100%, I do believe, thought that, believed that, knew it was the case, thought it would continue to be the case. Mm-hmm. But John Haidt's not John Haidt's boss.
He is not.
Someone else with very different incentives is John Haidt's boss. And ultimately, is John Haidt just going to be like, no? And they're just going to be like, really? You're going to say this? You're going to say no, John? How many times can he say no before, the person that has more authority than him just goes around him or changes his position?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, within a company, right? If you make all of these humongous big principled stands all the time, well, then you're just going to be booted out. You won't be able to make any change in the inside from the inside anyway. So even if he was our man on the inside, he would have to probably take some tactical losses in order to take the wins that are possible for him, because that is just how effect and change in a big corp works. And I know that sucks, etc., 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 but it's the way it be. It is how it is. Yep. So, to get on to the rest of this, though, because there are, non-kooky conspiracy theory parts to this. So we'll just zoom up to the very top, I guess, work our way down for this survey. So this is a survey that came out. Now, you see these Blizzard surveys? These, they're big Venus. Big Venus. They're very interesting. I mean, the other survey that happened. We should talk about the Final Fantasy survey. Let's do it in the Final Fantasy section because I think people will want us to address that, and it's relevant. But anyway, for this, when we started to hear about the character cloning option, it was announced at the BlizzCon. It got a big no from everybody.
Very big no.
And then the surveys came out being like, hey, how much would you pay for that? And had a big pay scale and people could select.
I think we know what people answered. Because their initial price was $34.99.
Yep. And then, of course, because of the backlash, they had to make it cheaper. But that just goes to show this is actual, genuine market research that informs decisions at Blizzard. And that means this is shit they're thinking about. So we gotta listen.
Mm-hmm.
Summoning stones at dungeon entrances. This is a change. This has ruined the game.
Destroyed.
0 out of 10. So, would people like that? I think a bunch of people probably would. Get around a bit more conveniently.
Yeah, definitely.
More difficult raid, bosses, and dungeon encounters.
Yep.
I'd click very likely.
I mean, yeah, but they're not hard. Like, it's about showing up with decent gear. The game is so unbelievably solved. Like,
that's why I would like it if there was a classic plus or a new wave of it coming and everything's way harder so that the game is no longer solved.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, cool. That would be more interesting to me. So I would click very likely in that one.
And they don't even need to massively add a bunch of mechanics or anything like that. Any of that, like, we'll make it, we'll turn it into modern WoW gameplay wise. They need to just go, well, these players know how to optimize themselves with gear. So we have to either tone them down or turn boss damage up. And even that would be enough to kind of rethink how you would approach. Because instead of having the optimal, we'll take 40, we'll take 10 of these, 5 of these, 5 of these, etc. Then you've got this strategy element to work around with.
Well, imagine the whole thing about classic raids, right? It's 40 players.
Yeah.
And it's like 20 of them are good. Those are the 20 that carry everyone else through.
Yeah.
That's what it was back in the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what if a classic raid is tuned so you need 30 competent players in a raid? I wonder. So let's play a game of where we would click in the survey should we get it. So
let's go.
Summoning stones at dungeon entrances. For me, that's like how likely or unlikely to start playing if the changes I liked was implemented. Well, because of that wording, I'm going to say very unlikely because I don't really mind. If that was implemented, it wouldn't make me play.
Yeah, I'd be like somewhat unlikely for that. And just probably speed up me getting into Wailing Caverns, but I wouldn't mind too much.
Yeah. It could be interesting for, travel.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, I guess.
Imagine if you made, like, you had a guild and they decided to be the Azerothian Transport Network. And, for a small fee, they would invite you to one of their groups and summon you to a summoning stone to get you around the world. I mean, that could be interesting. Anyway, for the next one, though, more difficult raid bosses and dungeon encounters, I would put a very likely there. That would make me want to do it more.
Big sim.
Increase debuff limit on raid bosses.
I feel like increasing that would likely change up class balance in a pretty significant way.
Yeah.
Kind of. So sure. Also,
shake it up, make it less of a solved game.
Yeah. So I'd probably go in the kind of somewhat likely for that. Maybe.
I'm going to say somewhat. Okay, that change.
Come on.
I don't give a shit. But just because it would make things feel less solved, I'd almost go for a somewhat likely.
Yeah.
Oh, we're having some nice Venus.
Fun.
And here, we love fun.
To the tune of your man from the boy from the advert.
Your man from the boy from the advert.
Fun. That.
There we go. So our next one.
Yep. Hello.
Barbershop. Mm-hmm. So, would I start playing if this was implemented?
Yeah.
Very unlikely. Do I think this is a good change? Yeah. Absolutely. Because I don't think the barbershop, I don't think it's something of like, no, your choices matter. This is classic bros. That's a bit of a straw man, to be honest. But, I don't think it's that. I think we're in Azeroth. People in fantasy worlds can change their hair.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put the barbershop in, makes sense.
Yeah, that's one of those quality of lives that, like, it doesn't matter. It
faster really XP rates to level.
I
think I'd have to go for the unlikely there. You know, it's weird, right? If you're basically refactoring Classic into not being Classic anymore,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not vanilla anymore, it's freaking vanilla latte. Then that's the sort of thing. If it's this game that is supposed to be way faster and actually play like normal, and that's just the accepted vibe of it, then maybe I'd say a likely there, because it would mean, oh, jump in, zoom through the leveling, let's just engage in this sort of weird sort of version of the classic endgame that, you know, it's a bit faster, but also the content's a bit harder. You know, that could be a fun thing. It would certainly be different, and I guess not no changes, but very few changes has already happened, so they're probably all happy with that, so why do the same thing again?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like faster XP to rates the level is a pretty big problem for Classic, but that's because of how I engage with Classic. I have literally zero...
Totally changes up what the game is.
Yeah, I have zero interest in Classic Endgame, because I just don't think any of that is, like, fun mechanically or experientially. Maybe the idea of, like... Because the idea of getting 39 other people and going into MC doesn't super... I don't care anymore. I kind of cared doing raids in TBC, or in Wrath, but I don't care about the gameplay, so I would rather have all of the time in the world to do all of the quests while they feel important.
Depends what difficulty is, because, you know, if you tell me that you've actually just went in and partially redesigned Molten Core, and you put some new mechanics and things in to make it feel just that little bit more, and, you know, and we're just overtly saying, this is not Classic, this is something different, then I'd be like, okay, sure, it's a different game, let's do things that make sense for this new different game. And then for me, I'd be like, well, I mean, personally, I would go there to get the end game experience, because that's like the bit that I missed.
Right.
So I'd be like, likely, but not because I think that faster XP would make Classic better. It would make Classic not better. Yeah. So you see what I mean? It's like a sort of multifactorial kind of dealio.
Yeah.
No world buffs and raids. You know, would that make me play the game? No. Do I think that would be good, or maybe just, you know, give us a chrono boon from the start? I would say chrono boon from the start if we're going to do this new weird thing.
Yeah, I feel like
chrono boon's great.
Yeah, I feel like no world buffs and raids is one of those small QL things that I think would, if I played, I'd probably be happy to hear this, but it's not going to have a significant impact on my experience as someone who's never really done classic endgame. I'm like, be slightly, you know what? Somewhat likely. That's what I would do. Somewhat likely.
Interesting.
Somewhat likely.
Interesting. So our next part of the survey then.
Yes.
Which is, for WoW Classic Fresh Start Realms, we are considering accelerating the cadence of new phase releases and making some changes to allow players to keep up. Which cadence would you prefer most for a WoW Classic Fresh Start Realm? Same classic cadence as from August 2019 launch. Accelerated 12 months cadence with a fresh start restarted every 12 months.
Yeah.
Accelerated 6-month cadence with a fresh start realm restarted every 6 months. And read carefully there. Restarted. Does that just mean there's a server wipe at the end?
Yeah, just boom, done.
So, right, if it is something where the character is going to be thrown in the bin, I would almost just say 6 months, crank everything up, and just admit that that's what we're going to do, and it's totally different, and this is basically just something that exists for people who enjoy, you know, heroic and mythic raids in the current game, a new thing for them to do. In that case, I'm just going to say 12 months or 6 months, but for me, you know, I would do that once because of, it would be interesting to see a new version of this content, but that it's restarted, I'd be like, don't know about that. It's a bit weird for an MMO.
Well, I mean,
like, if it's going to be restarted, then I almost wouldn't even want leveling, because then it's just overtly an endgame tourism thing. Yeah, well, it's them looking to the private servers, because people liked the restart, go again, restart, go again, restart, go again, because it's kind of, you get to experience the journey again, especially because there's so many different ways you can play Classic and so much content. You can literally, like, if you play it once, there's entire, like, zones you don't do. There's like half of the, like, you basically don't go to like a half of the game in general, especially if you start Horde, but you're not going to start an Alliance character late, something like that, where the idea of there being like seasonal stuff would be really interesting to get to experience it all. But then there's the side of it where it's just almost a speedrunner optimization thing, where they're like, right, how fast can we get to endgame, how fast can we get here,
how fast can we do this whole progression thing again?
Yeah.
But it's then you look at the Diablo season stuff, the seasonal model they're working in for retail, and it is that thing where they're just, it's like when Michael said at the start about the Mythic Plus, now it's time for Classic Plus. That's a very big play on Classic Plus, because we always thought Classic Plus would be, you know, our idea of Classic Plus, the community's idea of Classic Plus was more content. Classic, but added to.
Yeah, for me, it's just RuneScapeify Classic. Let's go.
It's do Classic and then do more stuff. Add content onto it. But Classic Plus in the style of Mythic Plus, not necessarily like timed or anything, would be accelerated, sped up, and change things every time. Make it a bit more fresh. That's what seasonal stuff works like. That's how you get a game and you make content, and then you throw a load of systems on top of the content, or you throw a bunch of modifiers in, and then you've got the idea of, well, we've made this content once, why not have players play it over and over and over again?
Yeah.
Which, if people like the content, absolutely fine.
Can you kill KT, faster next season for a higher seasonal Classic Plus score?
Yeah, can you, exactly. Can you kill Ragnaros, but this time, with reduced gold rates, so you don't have all of your, at the regular cadence you get gold, you won't have all your skills by the time you hit 58 to hop into Molten Core. Or this time Ragnaros actually, fire resistance is turned off for this run.
Okay,
the kind of gameplay
if they
stuff.
were going to do some sort of crazy weird thing, that could actually be like a weird fucking homunculus.
Yeah.
But it could be sort of interesting.
Yep.
It's just so not why people liked Classic. It would totally be trying to it would be looking at Classic and its content and thinking, how can we strip this for parts and sell it to the people who like Modern? Because maybe Blizzard have realized, and maybe this is existing because not that many Modern people are really enjoying Classic. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but maybe that's why they would want to do a Classic, but a Classic that feels more modern.
Well, that's the thing, because here's what I expect to happen, right? So I don't know how many people were Classic tourists, in the sense where they hadn't played since vanilla, and then they went, I'll go relive Classic, this will be great. I don't know how much of that they got player-wise. Obviously, they got a lot of people, but I imagine they had a lot more retention from the people who are private server players, but in greater numbers, where they took all that private server, people who like playing Classic over and over again, and with the different permutations and whatnot, with different amounts of XP, with people playing Project Ascension, where you've got classless stuff, so it's all a big roll dice like crazy and have fun. So I feel like it's kind of that, where they probably saw that the Classic private server players engage with them further, so they're going to want to cater to them in this way.
Yeah,
which is just kind of do this over and over again, change stuff up, and we'll see can we get this to be a constant thing? Can we get this to be a constant product that people are always sub to, because it's going through stuff with half of the effort, or 10% of the effort that Modern WoW has? Kind of the same with Diablo Seasons, where I imagine Diablo 3's actual core team, or whatever team's updating that, is a skeleton team at the very, very most. But they're probably still seeing a significant amount of, not a significant amount, like massive numbers of players, but a decent few that are hanging around and being monetized through this. Like here, it costs us 10 grand to keep this team running. I mean, I don't know how you'd
more than that, probably.
But yeah, it costs us like 200 grand to keep this team running, and the revenue's 300. This is so easy. They're not it's just one dude in the corner of the office.
Plus, they may be realizing, hey, we need to keep the Diablo people engaged.
Yeah.
Plus, it's probably a small skeleton crew that deeply understands the desires of the current player base for that game.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could be what's up. There is one more thing. There's one more thing on this, which is overall, how much do you like or dislike the following changes you may potentially see in a Classic Fresh Start realm? So like or dislike, and that is basically the thing. The problem with this market research is, without knowing what their intent is, it's impossible to say. So faster XP rates to level. If this truly is like a seasonal Diablo thing, where it's just hey, this in this iteration of Classic New Start, all these bosses, all the bosses are harder. There's a few new mechanics, blah, 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 blah. Then I'm just going to say massively faster XP, whatever. We don't care. It's obviously not anything resembling Classic anymore. It's a sort of seasonal Classic endgame dungeony thing, whatever. Make it. But if that's not their intent for Classic, then I'd be like, no, don't make the XP rate faster. The slow burn is a part of, it's the balance that makes Classic Classic. But then you look at a barbershop and you're like, well, yeah, obviously put the barbershop in. Sure, it doesn't change anything.
What's the goal of the overall product instead of all this piecemeal stuff?
Yeah, I mean, increase the debuff limit and raid bosses. I mean, absolutely do that if you're also going to make the bosses harder and then change up some of their designers so that it is like a new thing that is not trying to be the classic vanilla experience.
Yeah, molten cores all now ice instead of lava.
I mean, there's one here, original Ataric Valley design. More guards, slower matches, additional quests. I mean, a strong yes, cool. Black market auction house for vanity items. I mean, that could be very interesting if they were going to put a token in. But then, actually, if there's going to be fresh starts with, restarts, because they used the restart terminology earlier on, well, actually, then really couldn't have any WoW token be in there. That would be kind of absurd. But, what's the deal there? I don't think that's good.
I don't think it's very good at all. I feel like that's... I don't know. I don't even know what to feel about that. That's just funky.
Like accelerated rate of item drops. Well, it's like, Blizz, you tell me. Like that would totally depend on what your design intent is. Because if you're going for 6 months, absolutely accelerated. If you're going for 12, accelerated a bit. If you're going for the same as last time, don't accelerate.
Yeah, do you want to turn this into like a hyper speedrun game where you've got a 20x leveling speed, you've got 20x of drop rates, so people are like, can you clear Classic in a week?
Like if their intent is to give me and my, I don't run it, Snaky's the GM, so, our WoW guild, if you want to give our WoW guild some raids to do in, say a 9-month-long content drought, then sure, make the thing a year long, increase the drop rate of items, make the dungeons all harder so that as, heroic curve raiders, we can, there's that even the thing, we don't have 40 people, so it wouldn't make sense. Yeah. I mean, what would it be like if they were just like, hey, so we've put Flex into this weird classic fresh start. We're actually just trying to make it be something that endgame, modern people can enjoy. Then you're like, what's going on? I don't know. So that's the thing with this market research survey. I would really question the usefulness of some of this data because it's without knowing what fresh start actually means to Blizzard and what their kind of design intent would be. It's very hard to answer any of these questions because my answers to all of these would depend based on what they would want to do and what their design goal is. So I can't help them that much in this one. But I mean, not that I got a survey, but
well, that's the thing. I guess it's probably went out to a lot of the heavy people who are like playing tons and tons of Classic. So, they'll click faster XP. They'll either 70% of them click strongly dislike on half of this, then Classic Fresh Start will just be Classic Fresh Start. But if 70% of them went, give us the whole thing, then they'll go, here's Crazy Town. Here's Crazy Town. It comes part of your sub. You can play Wrath Classic and Classic Crazy Town all you like. Go for it. I think that would probably be a kind of smart move, but...
Like in my head, what it should be is a Classic Plus that lasts indefinitely and is just, like the old school RuneScape-ification it.
Yeah.
Like maybe put in some weird kooky old version of player housing and a construction profession. Make it so that we can actually, so a bunch of Horde players will have to venture into Ashenvale to actually chop down some lumber. Things like that. You could actually do plenty there. But, it's like without knowing their intent, it is pretty much impossible to give any decent feedback.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the major problem. But it's, well, I always have this concern where I'm looking at all this and expecting it and considering it to be, they're just going to, this is them going, how can we recycle Classic content in different ways by tweaking values instead of making more content?
Yeah, I'm trying to work out what they... I'm just trying to work out what they intend with the WoW product overall.
Well, so what I imagine is they've seen that Classic era servers are all dead because everyone's moved to TBC.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware,
so you need a fresh start in order to engage
people. Yeah, Classic era is gone. But will people do a fresh start? And I guess that's what they're trying to figure out. Will people do a fresh start as it is, will they stick with TBC, or will they need more to be brought back into Classic? Because if people won't play a fresh start, or if they won't do a fresh start, all of that Classic money is now dead. And that means there is a big, big flashing red light with a big number of years until Classic Project has run out of content. So I feel like they're probably going to figure out to get all of this. We don't have to spend any money on anyone making content. We have an intern switching numbers, or a team of designers switching numbers intelligently, either or, up to Blizzard. And that's how we get more value out of all of this, which is again where the Mythic Plus, Classic Plus stuff comes in.
Yeah.
Where how do we get the most, and it sounds really really grim to go, how do we get the most profit? How do we get the most efficient use out of this already created content? And that doesn't necessarily have to be cynical.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like it from Blizzard, but it's the same with modifiers in a roguelite game, where it's here's your daily challenges or something like that, where it's here's a load of random shit thrown in, play your roguelite today and have a different gameplay experience. So it's that kind of thing where I feel like that's what they're trying to do, and this is them testing the waters to see what experiment do we run next to make sure none of this Classic content goes to waste.
Yeah, because it doubled their subscribers.
Yeah,
almost overnight
something like that,
for World of Warcraft. So
I imagine that's when again.
Well, TBC will whoop.
Yeah, TBC will go whoop, and
they're realizing.
Yeah, so
they're realizing what's up. So
yep.
that's that.